This is K.M. Weiland, and you are listening to the 224th episode of the Helping Writers Become Authors podcast. Some of you may remember that earlier this year I ran a campaign for Dreamlander on Story Cartel. Well, I'm doing it again, this time for my historical thriller short story, The Memory Lights. In a nutshell, Story Cartel offers free ebooks in exchange for reviews. So if you'd like a free copy of The Memory Lights, now's your chance. The book will only be available for a few more weeks, so snap it up while you can. If you review the book, you'll also be in the running to win one of 3 $10 Amazon gift cards. To download your copy, zoom by storycartel.com and search The Memory Lights. The December issue of my e-letter hit inboxes this morning. It included more drawing winners, the article, "Is Your Antagonist's Motive Too Weak?" and my response to a subscriber's question about how to write child characters. If you're not receiving the e-letter and would like to, you can sign up for my mailing list on my website at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. You can read back issues online at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com/resources. Research your book without even trying. The latest post in the video series on my blog encourages you to research your book before you even start thinking about writing, and offers techniques on how to do it. To watch it, visit my website at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. New videos are posted every Wednesday. And now I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast entitled Most Common Writing Mistakes: Weak Character Voice. Voice. That tantalizingly nebulous word is flung around so often in writing critiques and agent demands that writers sometimes get to where we almost hate the sound of it. Every author is supposed to cultivate a unique voice, but even more than that, we're also supposed to create a unique character voice for every one of our players. But how do we do that? Well, we start by creating unique character personalities, and if we're lucky, character voice will just flow right out of those vibrant personalities. Sounds good, all right. So let's say you've created that super duper unique character. He's a wise guy kid who's headed for the European theater in World War II. His voice is thick in your head, and his personality seems to be bubbling right out onto the page. But beta readers aren't getting it. I don't hear his voice, they complain. He seems like every other character. This, of course, makes you want to smack your forehead against the table, or better yet, their forehead. You have to bite your tongue until it bleeds just to keep from screaming, "Of course he's unique, can't you hear his voice?" The point, naturally, is that they can't hear his voice. This problem may go deeper than even you want to think about. Maybe that character isn't so unique and awesome after all. But we're going to look on the bright side. It could be due to the much simpler problem of too much telling in your narrative. Even a strong character may end up with a weak narrative voice if you're summarizing all his thoughts. For instance, Eddie crept into the dark barracks. The sentry outside the camp's gates hadn't noticed him and his buddy Alex sneaking in after hours. They were supposed to have been back from their 2 days' leave 5 hours ago. Inside, everybody was snoring. Eddie heaved a sigh of relief and slapped Alex's shoulder before tumbling into his own bunk. The situation sounds interesting enough, but we don't get much sense of Eddie's thoughts or emotions upon his hasty return to his quarters. Even worse, we get no sense of his personality. In other words, his voice is weak and boring. I, as the author of this riveting piece, am totally in sync with what tense and possibly uproarious thoughts are going on in Eddie's head. But since I'm obviously so intent on hoarding them, I can hardly get upset with you when you tell me Eddie's just not popping off the page for you. So this is where it gets fun. Once you understand what character voice is and how to strengthen it on the page, it raises the whole art of storytelling, and especially character creation, to a much higher pitch of enjoyment. To fix poor Eddie's pitiful voice, all we have to do is start showing his thoughts. In other words, we're going to dramatize whatever it is that's going on in his head. We're going to see if we can show what he's doing and what's happening to him through the unique lens of his own perspective. Technically, in any type POV, including deep third person, every word in the narrative is going to be part of your POV character's thoughts. Take a moment to consider the running monologue that's going on inside his head. How does he view the world and his experiences in it? If he were telling this story to a friend instead of just thinking it, what words and phrases would he use to convey his point? With that in mind, let's give Eddie another chance to have his say. Eddie crept into the barracks. The whole place was black as the devil's laundry room, not even the lazy blink of a cigarette butt's glow. Perfect. Positively perfect. He looked in Alex's direction, even though he couldn't see him, and grinned. The sentry outside the camp's gates hadn't even noticed them sneaking in after hours. How was that for military precision? And these guys were supposed to clamber into Germany and come out with Hitler's mustache? Right. They couldn't even figure out how two of their own had been stretching their 2-day passes for all they were worth. Inside, everybody was snoring, or maybe it was just Big Paunchy. Hard to tell since old Paunchy sounded like a howitzer all by himself. That was perfect too. Cover noise and everything. Seemed like the whole platoon was on their side. He heaved a sigh of relief and slapped Alex's shoulder before tumbling into his own bunk. And, just like that, Eddie is suddenly a character, and his narrative suddenly has a voice. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, you can visit my website at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. And be sure to check back again next week.